What could it be? What is it then, if it's not a double hypocrisy from you people? It's not about freedom of speech, you liars. You are a liar. And you are all liars. It's not about freedom of speech. It is about the selective use of freedom of speech in order to inhibit and derail and diminish the rights of Muslim people who happen to be minorities in Western lands. That's really what's going on, isn't it? Because you don't want to admit that. Because you have an ulterior agenda. In fact, you need us more than anything else, because we are the very community which you need to tell your children, who will grow up being, in some cases, white supremacists, in other cases, at least fierce nationalists against any ethnic minority outside of themselves.
Say that again. One more time.
In some cases, white supremacists, in other cases, at least fierce nationalists against any ethnic minority outside of themselves, to say this is what you're not. You need us to be the scapegoat that you can blame for every mistake that happens in your life, every failure that you have, which is why it is no coincidence that most right-wing, far-right individuals like Tom Robinson and his ilk are the most uneducated, low IQ individuals in all of society.
Mohammed Hijab, I won't say that you have low IQ at this point. Okay, I will say you are simply demonized. Look now what Mohammed Hijab said. He said that for the attack against Salman Rushdie is white supremacy to blame. I mean, can you not say the most outrageous, cliché things ever? Can you not just be wrong? You need to say the most outrageous, cliché thing ever. You need to say the joke as being true. If somebody in a stand-up comedy says this joke, people will not laugh because it's very outrageous. You need to say jokes that are more relevant to reality. I mean, if someone stands in a stand-up comedy and says, for the attack against Salman Rushdie is white supremacy to blame, people will say, okay, that's a little bit funny, but it's too outrageous to be funny. And you say that as being true. The only people that say these kind of things is Islamists and the regressive left. Look the other guy. Remember Social Justice Werleman? I made a video about him a couple of days ago. He says, Muslims, particularly Pakistani Muslims, are being targeted for assassination in New Mexico. The perpetrator is most likely a white supremacist, but would not be surprised if we learn she is a Hindu nationalist.
Albuquerque, there were Islamic people who were killed,
right,
and they were suspecting white supremacy. Turns out it was actually a Muslim himself in Albuquerque.
What?
51-year-old named Muhammad Saeed. So
he looks like he should be white.
Yeah. So let me just do the math here. This last week we've seen a Muslim attempt to murder a writer for his opinions on Islam, Salman Rushdie. A plot from one of that same People's Front Liberation of Iranian no bikinis, whatever it is. Murder the former national security advisor, plot for it. Muslim arrested for murdering other Muslims.
Yeah. It's
basically gotten almost no national coverage. And I think I'm figuring out why it's... White supremacy. That's the problem that we're facing, right?
Right. Number one problem.
It's the number one terrorist.
It's the number one terrorist threat. I just want to make sure. Are we all in agreement?
No, you nailed it. Yeah.
It's white supremacy.
Correct.
Good.
Mohammed Hijab, are you seriously going to blame this act that we all know why that happened? Okay. A writer wrote a novel against Muhammad, the Satanic Verses. Ayatollah Khomeini issued a fatwa people are losing their minds
Members of the audience will
from Islam all over the place and they are doing similar actions, yet you will blame this action to white supremacy.
The man in custody has been identified as 24-year-old Hadi Matar.
Why? I mean, what kind of mental gymnastics you need to do to say these kind of things?
32 seconds. Just allow me on the stage. Now,
Plus,
brothers and sisters, why am I against hate speech so much? Why am I against
you want a
it?
blasphemy law to protect your weak religion.
Let me tell every single one of you guys
blasphemy law
why
on the
I'm
back
against
door.
hate speech.
I'm not against hate speech. You're so sensitive.
Do you know these people? Do you know them?
Scientologists answer.
Does anybody recognize these two faces?
I am. I'm Sikh.
This is a girl, a young, white, innocent girl
under my turban
that
earlier.
got killed, if I'm not mistaken, in Manchester bombings.
Is a piece of shit. I didn't say nothing.
The person on the left,
I didn't say nothing.
the person on the left in America, a Somalian sister, was butchered and thrown to the bushes in some park somewhere. Why did this happen? Why did this happen? Why? Because of hate speech.
First he says, freedom of speech equals hate speech. And then he says, hate speech is responsible for terrorism. In other words, freedom of speech is responsible for terrorism. No, Alitawa, let me now tell you what's actually the truth.
This is big brain time.
Freedom of speech is not hate speech, and Islamic ideology is to blame for terrorism. This is the mental process. Can you understand now what's going on? So, because Islam can never be, it's perfect and can never be wrong, okay, so let's exclude Islam as the reason for anything, to blame. Now, if we exclude Islam, then what's left? Obviously, white supremacy. The problem is that you exclude Islam. Yes, if you exclude the most obvious 1 + 1 = 2 reason, then obviously the next thing that you will say will be the most outrageous stupidity. Imagine, okay, so let me try to find an analogy on the spot. Let me think. Imagine me saying, for example, who is responsible for World War II? Okay, certainly it's not Hitler, because supposedly Hitler is my prophet. So let's take out Hitler. Who else, therefore, now is responsible? Obviously Churchill. Okay, that is your mental process. Your Islamic supremacy, because you cannot accept that Islam is not in fact perfect, it's not a good moral guidance. It is in fact making people losing their minds, because you cannot accept those things, which are the 1 + 1 = 2 truth. That's why you then come up with this kind of stupid things that cannot even be said in comedies.
So what I will say is, to conclude, as follows. My friend Ali Dawa has made a very good point in his videos, a very, very good point, which is that he said, why do you specialize Islam in this discussion when, if the sacred symbols of other peoples from other faiths, as we've seen with the Hindutva in India, he makes the example of Ataturk in Turkey, some Kurdish leader he mentions. We can go on and on. If you try and desecrate the sacred symbols of individuals, the gangster communities among them will deal with you, my friends. We're not condoning such a thing at all. But that is a reality. We, the Muslims, at 1.8 billion, which represent, according to Pew, will represent 1/3 of the population of the world. 1 in 3 at least 1 in 4 now. You don't think we have gangsters? We have Muslim gangsters as well.
TikTok after the attempted murder of Salman Rushdie. Insane. This is why Islam is the only topic I'm actually worried about discussing. So, let's see though what's happening. Respect. Love you, brother. Salute. We love you, brave man. Bless you. Well done. Good. Very. Too many gangsters, eh? Many gangsters. He is hero. We love you. Wow. Many gangsters. They all came together in a conference. What motive? And I went to some random mafia, some gangsters on Twitter. Look what they say. Salute to the brave Muslim who taught the cursed Salman Rushdie a historical lesson. The brave Muslim is the hero of the Muslim mafia. No, Ummah, it says, sorry. Muslims react to Salman Rushdie, the one that, okay. Inshallah, the next number is Geert Wilders. Anyone from the world gave the head of Geert Wilders, I will give him 2 million. Wow. He must be a gangster. Arabs react to the brutal murder. Okay, let's see that. It might be interesting. Worth it. Thank you, whoever you are. A girl, she will be, mafia also have women. There is no power except with Allah. Why? You mean the Godfather? Yes, that is what he meant, but bless your hands. Okay, that was interesting. That is 100% ideology. 100%. Nothing to do with gangsters, grievances, random people just doing things randomly. Nothing to do. That is clear-cut ideology.
Question is, of course, is such a thing even appropriate considering the circumstances? Now, that's what I want to say is, from as much as I know, in America, for example, in the UK, in the US, and much of the West, in fact, most of the West, we don't see particular pieces of legislation which are aimed against things like blasphemy law. But we don't find the same free speech absolutists, individuals who are talking about free speech and advocating its merits, talk about other things which are in fact enshrined into legislation. For example, of course, Holocaust denial being one of them. Of course, we don't necessarily advocate such a position, just for the record.
I wanted to ask you generally, you've been quite open about free speech. When does free speech cross a line, Martha?
So every functioning society has to have some limits on free speech. If you agree with any law on hate speech, then you agree on limits to free speech in society. If you say actually it's fine to say anything, you quickly run up against a paradox, which is that you say it's fine to somebody to go on TV and call for the death of somebody else for expressing a view. So their freedom of speech is immediately restricting the freedom of speech of others. So you do need some limits on free speech in a free society. Now, of course, we can argue where you draw the line.
Mohammed Hijab, this is the interview you are supposedly responding to. Yet, this individual doesn't subscribe to free speech absolutism. How about Douglas Murray? No, he doesn't subscribe to free speech absolutism either. So Mohammed Hijab is like Don Quixote. He is fighting imaginary monsters. He is fighting against free speech absolutists. According to Mohammed Hijab, this brilliant philosopher and scientist, there are only two options. Either you believe in free speech absolutism or accept Islamic blasphemy laws. There is nothing in between. Only those two options. In other words, either you are an Islamofascist or an anarchist. There is nothing in between. Those are the only two options, in fact. You are with us or with them. Either you are an Islamofascist, either an anarchist. Choose your side. Yeah, that's a false dichotomy, obviously. And ironically, while making this argument, he indirectly admits that he is a fascist. That is the most cliché argument fascists make. Whoever opposes me is an anarchist. Isn't that the most cliché argument of dictators? Whoever doesn't accept Sharia blasphemy laws must be an anarchist. Isn't this your argument, Mohammed Hijab? Yes, it is. But of course, there is a third option. We can get rid of you fascist, Islamofascist, and also we can get rid of anarchists and make a liberal democracy. As for your Holocaust deniers argument, the evidence for the Holocaust are so devastating that denying the Holocaust is anti-Semitism, clear cut. It's not an intellectual engagement. We have pictures of the Holocaust, video footage. Okay, you can literally take a plane now and go and see the gas chambers. Okay, we had the Russian army witnessing the Holocaust, saying that to the Americans, and the Americans didn't believe them. So also the Americans went and witnessed the Holocaust, the camps. Okay, then look what happened. So the Americans saw the camps and was reporting years before, months before, the Russians were witnessing all these camps, were saying that to the Americans, and they didn't believe them. They thought it was some kind of propaganda. Then the American soldiers saw the camps, okay, the ghettos, how you call them, sorry, and they were reporting to the generals and what they were seeing, and the generals didn't believe them. So the generals themselves, the top 3 generals of USA, went themselves to see the Holocaust. And once they saw the horrors in the camps, first of all, one general throw up, went behind a building and threw up. The other 2 American generals became white from the horrors they were watching. And what the general did, in order no one can be able to doubt what Nazi did, he went to the near villages and he forced the German villagers to come and witness themselves. So nobody can deny that. Okay, so we are talking about this evidence. And we have video footage of the German villagers going around and watching the piles of bodies, the gas chambers. And of course, being shocked, vomiting, crying. So we have this kind of evidence. Not to mention the witnesses. Millions of people. Guys, the Holocaust was not like 5 people that you can hide them. We are talking about how many? We are talking about like 5 million people. We have witnesses. They live today. So we have photographs, videos, witnesses. What else do you want? Okay, so denying the Holocaust is anti-Semitism. So the same way it's a kind of anti-Semitism. And moreover, when somebody denies the Holocaust, we don't gather around, make a mob, and burn him alive. No, we give him a fine. He can go to jail. In most countries, nothing happened. So it's not the same. Okay, then you have the wrong presupposition that liberal democracies are set to maximize freedom or maximize individuality. No, they are set to maximize well-being. So, liberal democracies might limit free speech if they deem that will help societies. So there is no contradiction, because not allowing Islamic blasphemy laws serve well-being, not allowing people making sick propaganda against the Jews also serves well-being. So where is the contradiction? It is a contradiction when you have this wrong presupposition that liberal democracies want to maximize freedom. No, that's not a liberal democracy. That's anarchy. Okay, Mohammed? Thank you very much.